Hi, welcome to the video of my motorized F-111 by Revell. Something I've never done before. I've done plenty of helicopters and propeller aircraft in the past, but I've never tried this before. And this kit was not my first choice. My first choice was the Revell F-14 Super Tomcat, but I found that the body wasn't quite wide enough to fit the motor I wanted to use. So I had to go and buy this F-111, which is not the greatest kit. It has raised panel lines and a number of minor fit issues. So I've got the front section together with the cockpit, and I've left it overnight to dry. So I'm just going to have a look and see the actual fit of the parts and the layout, and to try to get an idea of how I'm actually going to do this, or if it can be done. Now, there are certain areas you can see that have gaps. The fit is not great, but it's passable. And for an old kit, now I'm looking to fit the motor in this general area, so it's not too far back. Obviously, the further back it is, the more problems I will have with the nose lifting up in the air. The upper section of the fuselage has two plastic pins which basically hold the wing in place. And you can see here how the wing pieces interlock into each other. So that's how the swing wing system works. Now I'm going to have to remove these pins, because all the work I'm going to be doing is on the lower part of the fuselage. So there's very little to do with the upper part of the fuselage at the moment. In order to find out exactly where the pins need to be transferred to, I just applied a little bit of paint on the inside, and where the pins contacted the lower part of the fuselage, it left a witness mark. You can see it here in the pictures, in the video. So that's where I need to put some new pins. It's quite an easy process. Before I progress, I have to remove the pins on the upper fuselage. I drilled a couple of pilot holes, which were then enlarged to take some plastic rod that go all the way through. I chose to drill the top so the pins would actually be a lot stronger. Right here you can see the pins are in place on the lower part of the fuselage, and the glue is still quite wet, so the pins are able to move. And to make sure they are exactly where I need them to be, I just placed the top part of the fuselage onto the lower and then left it overnight to dry. Now that the pins are dry and stronger, I actually applied a bit of super glue all around to make them even stronger, and got on with the build. As you can see, it works just the same on the lower part of the fuselage as it did the upper. Now the motor I'm going to be using, it's actually a geared motor, and you can get different types. This one is a 7 RPM, 7 revolutions per minute, so it's quite slow. I wanted it slow. I didn't want something that was going to swing the wings too fast and look out of scale. Straight away I can see I've got two problems. One is the motor is actually sitting too low in the fuselage, well below the wing, so I have to raise it up somehow. And secondly, the shaft on the gearbox of the motor is going to interfere with how I want to connect the motor to the wing. So I have this piece of resin left over from a previous build, which might help with raising the motor up. I'm trying to figure out how to attach the wing to the motor here, and where is the best place. I had a look at several different options, but the one I settled on, I actually had to make a modification to the wing. As you can see in the video, I've added a spring. Now the idea of the spring is to pull and put the wings back into the swept position. And you can see here it actually does that, and seems to do it quite well. So it's the motor that's going to pull back on the wing to go in the up unswept position, and the spring will help to put it into the swept position. It's all, I know it sounds complicated, but you'll see in the next section of the video how it actually works. Another thing I've got to think about is the extra weight of the motor and gearbox on the rear of the model. So I have to put quite a bit of weight into the front of it. Now, I didn't know how much to put in it at the beginning of building the model, and I did test it. I put the rear stabilizers and rear fin onto a partly assembled fuselage, and I kind of worked out how much I needed to add. And as you can see, to do it, I've drilled a hole under the nose. I put the lead pieces inside, and now I'm adding some super glue to fix all those lead pieces into one place. I put a good few drops in there, and now I give it a good shake and twist it around to spread the super glue around so it catches as much of those lead pieces as I can. So here you can see now I've started to put things together. I've fixed the motor in place, and I've made a thin plastic arm out of plastic card, and I've fixed them in place with some tiny screws. Not screwed down tight, but left them loose. And I've left the spring off for now, because I'm not quite sure where the best place is to put that. So this is the first time I'm going to test it to see if it works. So I apply a little bit of pressure to the top of the wing. I'm not pressing down, I'm just holding it there in place at the moment because I think it's going to jump out and damage what I've done already. But it turns out that I didn't need to do that, because it actually did stay in place on its own. And you can see now how the motor, as it's turning, it's pulling on the wing to go into the unswept position. And it is actually pushing the wing forward to go into the swept position. Now, one thing I do notice is that plastic arm was bending slightly. So I think it would be a good idea to keep with the spring. And here you can see, with a slightly blurry picture, I've drilled a hole at an angle to make a kind of hook for the spring to catch onto. And as long as there's tension on the spring, that spring will not come off when the model is finally put together. It's quite a difficult process to get the wings and the spring all connected and in place. And I had to do it several times. So this is it, with the spring connected and the motor connected. And as you can see, the wing is staying in place, so I can actually take my thumb away. So it was at this point I thought, well, if I can get the wings to swing, could I get the rear stabilizers to go up and down? So I started another part of the build. The kit comes with the stabilizers allowed to move up and down, although individually as standard. Now, in order for me to do this, to get the stabilizers to go up and down, I had to join them together, which I did with a bit of plastic rod. Now, there's a piece on the vertical stabilizer which is going to interfere with this plastic rod. You can see it here in the picture that the plastic rod is directly underneath the vertical stabilizer. So I need to cut out this little triangle at the back so it allows some space. Another problem was the exhaust nozzles are going to interfere with this plastic rod, so I'm going to have to cut these down. So I fashioned another few pieces of plastic to connect everything together. I wanted to do this build without spending loads of money on bits and pieces, and I want to try and do it on stuff that I actually had around. Now, okay, I bought a motor and I bought a spring, and that's all I bought. Everything else I had lying around, so it didn't cost me a great deal. So this is actually a first test with everything connected. The upper part of the fuselage loosely in place, and I just want to have a look to see how everything, or if everything, is going to work, which surprisingly it did. Although the rear stabilizers, when they're in the down position, it looks rather extreme, and it probably is. But I've had a look at pictures on Google of F-111s on the ground, and the rear stabilizers are in that position there, quite a high angle. So I decided not to do anything about it. I thought I'd just leave it as it is. It's working. If I messed with it, I might mess it up altogether. Now that I'm happy that the wings and the rear stabilizers work, I can get on with the rest of the build. So I got the painting done and I started to apply some decals, or decals, and there's quite a few of them. Now I got to be honest, I didn't apply all of them. There's actually about 98 or close to 100 decals on the sheet that came with the kit. I put quite a few, but mainly the ones that stood out more. During the process of applying the decals, I actually kind of dropped the model and almost broke the rear stabilizer off. And as you can see here, it does wobble up and down slightly. So I don't want to mess with it too much. I don't know how long it's going to last. It might be a case of I will have to do away with the moving rear stabilizers and just have the wings moving forward and back. But it still works at the moment, but again, we'll see how long it lasts. So I applied a little wash just to highlight some of the detail on the model. Like I said at the beginning of the video, most of the detail is raised. It's not recessed. But there are some parts of it that are recessed. After wiping away the wash I applied, I gave the model a light coat of matte clear. And then the last job was to remove the canopy mask. Now I swear by this liquid canopy mask, and I find it better the thicker you put it on, because it just rolls off easy. Makes the job a whole lot cleaner and quicker. So here's the finished model and a different lighting. Looks quite nice. It wasn't actually as much work as I thought, and wasn't as complicated as I thought it was going to be. I've got plans to do a similar model in the future. Here it is on my turntable. If you like the video, or if you enjoyed the video, then please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.